So what are we to make of the God depicted in the Old Testament of the Bible? The book of Genesis begins, and God at the beginning created the heavens and the earth. My own belief is that there wasn't a big bang at the beginning that created the universe. My reason for believing that is that the universe is 13 billion years old, and yet protons are known to be trillions and trillions and trillions of years old. I believe that the universe goes through cycles of expansion and contraction, that if there was a big bang, it was a collapse of space. It was a collapse of all the particles of matter, all the vortices, which are space, you see. It's not that a vortex creates space. One vortex is the three-dimensional continuum that's occupied by another vortex. Each vortex is space and time for the other vortex. Everything is relative to everything else. And so you've got this possibility of particles of energy collapsing onto each other to form one enormous super black hole. And I believe that is what the God of the Old Testament was, which is the state of the whole universe collapsed into a singularity, a single point, with all the energy of the universe locked into that single point, all the mass of the universe locked into that single point. There could only be an enormous explosion, blowing the whole thing out into a new cycle of space, into the birth of new stars. So however we look at it, we see God is the universe. There is no separation between the universe and God. Now, in his book, The Intelligent Universe, Professor Sir Fred Hoyle, one of the greatest British cosmologists, said he didn't like the idea of a God creating the universe. He liked the Greek and Roman idea of the gods as managers in an already existing universe. And when you actually study Genesis, if you go back to the original Hebrew texts, they didn't use the word God, because God is a word that was created in the 17th century in England in the translation of the King James Version. God is Old English for good. If you go back to the earliest texts, the earliest Hebrew texts, they speak about the Elohim. And the Elohim literally means the gods. So the original Hebrew religion was never monotheistic. It was polytheistic. And so this creates a certain amount of confusion. If you read Genesis, you read the Bible, it says, let us create man after our own image and our own likeness. So God speaks in the plural, because in the original texts, it was never one God. It was always a plurality of gods. So the original Hebrew was polytheistic, just as St. John's verse is pantheistic. So if we're to make any sense of the Bible in terms of physics, in terms of our modern understanding, we need physics, we need astronomy to make sense of it all.